So anyway, these are examples of our children whom I love so much, who just, they need things from you. They need a lot, and they want a lot from you. And there are times where I just feel so exasperated by the reality of I have nothing left to give you right now. You are listening to the Famous at Home podcast with Dr. Josh and Christy Straub.
Because when it's all said and done, we all want to know that we were famous at home.
Welcome back to the Famous at Home podcast. Today, we're talking about something that just came out of my mouth about 5 minutes ago. Maybe not. But it's something that is real for us over here.
Well, it did just come out of your mouth 5 minutes ago, but it's been something you wrestle with.
Yeah. But when I put it together, I said these words. What do you do when your kid needs more from you and you have nothing left to give them? Boom.
What do you do when you need...
Let's have a confessional. Let's put your hands in the air if you have felt this. Yes. I see you. I hear you.
Okay, so tell me what that looks like in your life, Christy. Like, tell me what that means.
Doesn't look like in my life, you mean? List might be shorter. What that looks like is, let's start with the little one. Micah is 3. Micah needs constant attention. Micah wants you to play with him all the time. Micah,
play with me, please, Daddy.
Please.
Please play with me.
And then you're like, well, shoot, I can't
work. I can't homeschool the other kids. I can't run errands. I can't do it because, of course, I'm going to play with you.
Well,
the way you say it that way, right?
It makes you feel like you're supposed to.
Right.
And I think that's just the issue. Or, moving up, our middle one, who is our only girl, who is tender and emotionally operates like a 20-year-old sometimes, like just mature and
true.
Perceptive and perceiving all the things all the time. Mm-hmm. And time is her love language. So she just wants time with you, and again, like you want to give that and just like your focus, like she wants you to just like lock eyes with her and just be with her, like not even just doing things with her, but like really attentive focus. The big one, he asks about 1 million questions a day. Fair? Maybe that's not actually possible.
No, it's not.
But
it's probably 998,314 is how many I counted yesterday.
And I'm like, bud, I need you to write that question down because I don't know.
Some of them are good questions, and then other ones are he's got that boy block.
Yeah, where it's just
you're just like, dude, I just told you to do this. Why are you asking? Like, I can't explain it any easier than this. This is as easy as I can explain it. And then I have to go show them, and it's like, oh. Or
questions that there's no way, like, Mom, what are we going to do next week when we go to, and I'm like, I don't know what we're doing in 10 minutes from now.
Why did we get off this exit? Are we going, what are we doing?
Like, are we going on the highway back? Why does it matter? Okay, so anyway, these are examples of our children whom I love so much, who just, they need things from you. They need a lot, and they want a lot from you. And there are times where I just feel so exasperated by the reality of I have nothing left to give you right now. Like my own personal sense of safety is compromised because you're requiring so much of me. And so everything in me is raising a red flag of like, you are not safe. I need to protect myself from you. And that's what's happening, like actually happening. But what I'm experiencing is just like, stop. Like and then I get angry with them. And that's where the anger is coming from, is the nervous system that feels very unsafe because it knows it's being taxed beyond what it can handle. And so it's like, this is too much. And I have to get that thing that's making me feel like this away. And that's why we get angry. And the anger is protecting us from them. And obviously none of us like that, because then we feel ashamed and then we feel so bad that we've hurt them, or we've been harsh with them, or we've had to, ignore them or say no. I say no. That's more for Micah, where it's just like, buddy, I cannot play with you right now. And then he looks like you just, or then he throws a fit, and then you're like, see, this is why. But I think we all know what that feels like and what the pressure feels like. And it feels like a no-win, at least to me, where it's like, if I say no, I'm a terrible mom. But I'm protecting myself. If I say yes, or I go with it, or I just keep enduring it, because it can be constant, then that feels awful too, because what happened to self-care, and what happens to taking, making sure your oxygen tank is on before assisting another passenger. And then, so at least in my own head, it's like this carousel wheel of balance between the two of, am I failing enough in this area that I need to make a change, or am I doing okay today? And really, then it's just because they didn't need me as much, or maybe they weren't around as much. And so that's what we want to talk about today.
I think you already talked about it. I feel like this is a therapy session.
Maybe that's all it is. I don't know that I have a solution, except that I do understand what's happening now. I will say that. I didn't used to understand what was happening, why I was getting so angry with them. But that makes sense, right? Does that make sense how I explained that?
Yeah. Yeah. It made total sense how you explained it. And I think because your body, your nervous system, I think you need to speak it from your nervous system. My nervous system feels unsafe.
My nervous system's only job is to protect me. It does not care about them, that's what's really hard. Its job is to protect my sense of safety, my connection and belonging. So those ones do care about our relationships, but it's not in a altruistic way. Like, it doesn't really care so much for them. There's a mothering part of us that does.
And there's a soul.
Oh, and there's a soul.
Redeemed by Jesus Christ.
And a heart and a love. But I'm just saying, the nervous system, it that instinctual fight, flight response, like, that kicks in to protect you first, because it knows if you're gone, then also are your children, right? You cannot protect them. And so that makes sense. Like, it makes sense why it would protect you first. But just to understand, that's what's happening. That's why we get angry. It's why we lose it sometimes. That's why we feel all this. We'll feel frustrated, or we'll feel overwhelmed. We'll use those words a lot. It's because it's too much. And the nervous system is like throwing these, like, starts with yellow, then orange, then red flags of like, too much. This doesn't feel safe. And so it will do what it has to do to either fight or get you away from it. So that feeling that moms feel of like, I just want to leave my house and never come back, or they'll say that. And then they feel so terrible. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. That means your body's just trying to get you away from something that doesn't feel safe right now. Doesn't mean you're a terrible mom, and it certainly doesn't mean you're going to go do it. It means that you actually need to go for a walk. Like,
That's it right there. Yeah.
You need to do incremental things. It's not these big drastic things. It's these incremental things that do care for you. And so I guess in my own, now that I've ranted enough, I guess there are very measured ways that we can do both, where we're including our kids, obviously paying attention to their needs and ours. But I'm here to also say, like, I hear you, and I so resonate with what this feels like. The one thing that I always catch myself with that feels comforting in a way is, what would I tell my daughter or my sons to do once they're parents? What would I want for them in this moment? They want this temporarily right now, but once they become a mom and dad, what would I hope for them when their kids are doing this to them? And I think that gives you a much more measured way of like, oh yeah, obviously, I don't want them to just be at the whim of their children. I want them to care for themselves and my grandchildren.
And I think there's a handful of ways that I think we can talk through, ways that we do now, ways that we could things that we could be doing better at to talk about this. Before we do, I just want to invite you into the Leaders Heart cohort, which is coming up February 26 to 29, 2024 for the men. And if you're a woman and you want to go through Leaders Heart because you're listening to this and you're like, man, I really could use that. We don't have the date set for that, but if you're interested, we would love for you to fill out an application and I mean, seriously interested. Like, you're willing to take the 3 days in person. You're willing to really commit to the program, to the cohort. If you're interested, go to the website, fill out the application. We'll put it in show notes. And something that's less, demanding of your time and resources would be a group coaching program. And so we are in the process of working through that, getting those details figured out for moms and wives to go through with Christy, for husbands and dads to go through with me. And we would love to, because this is a great way for us to really go deeper with you, our podcast listeners, and to talk about these things at an even deeper level. And so that we would love for you to fill out those lists there and the show notes today. With that said, I want to say this because I think this is the overall general, and the reason I asked you, Christy, at the beginning, explain that. Does that mean, because I think there's two different things. I think there's a couple different things here that are going on. Number one is when we are not getting time with our children and they're demanding they want time. That is very different than when you are with your children a lot and they're still demanding your time. You do take intentional one-on-one times. You do take intentional time with them, and they still are demanding your time. I think there's two very different dichotomies there. It might be that you're listening to this, you're like, man, I have actually not spent a lot of time with my kids, and their desire to need me is they're needing you because you haven't been there. Well, and there's probably there could be very good reasons why you haven't been there. But I think there's the flip side of that too is you may be there all the time and they're still demanding of your time.
Well, but I think there's a middle ground there too. Well, not a middle ground. I think there's a lot of people who don't get a lot of time with their kids and don't have anything left for them either, right? It's like you're working, you might be getting a business off the ground. You might be working 2 jobs. You might be, when they say burning the candle at both ends, like actually living that life right now. And therefore, when the kids come to you and need something, like anything, it just feels like I have nothing left for you. Like I'm providing for you, and that's what I have to offer you. Like I remember a woman saying to me not that long ago, and she said, I basically tell my kids, like, these 4 walls are because of me, and that's what I can offer you right now. Meaning, like, I'm paying for your life, your safety and structure, and that's what I can offer. And I respected her so much for her honesty, because she realized at this point, like, she had nothing else, or at least she thought she had nothing else. And I think that's where the enemy gets us. And we were talking about, like, last week, believing lies, like truly deceiving us, that we get in such places of despair where it's like, I have nothing left for you. And I just want to normalize what that feels like, because I think we've all experienced it in seasons. The trouble is when that comes and stays for a long time. That's a time that I would say you need to reach out for help from someone. You need to speak to a friend or a pastor or a mentor, a counselor, a coach, someone to come alongside you, because that amount of, I know you want to be there for your kids. Like, if you're listening to this, I know that you're a fantastic parent and you're just feeling really burnt out and tired right now.
And the thing that I would say to that is, this was the component I was going to say, is in Safe House, which is the book I wrote in 2015 on emotional safety being the key to raising kids who live, love, and lead well, is that your kids can be at you all day. If I need this, I need daddy play with me, mommy play with me. If they have an environment of safety, if those kids feel safe, emotionally safe, that's right, emotionally safe, you're doing things well. Like, and even John Gottman found that you can, even if you get emotional safety thing right 2 out of 5 times, you can still get the outcomes you desire in your kids because of a word called repair. And the research says that repair is the ultimate of relationships. And the Bible calls it forgiveness and tells us to practice it a lot. So in other words, when we mess up with our kids, when we haven't been there enough, when we do, we have promised them, yes, I'll play Monopoly, but then we didn't get the chance to, that we apologize and we say, I'm sorry I didn't get the opportunity to do that.
To play that
How
game
can I
of
make
death.
it right? And so I think Risk is the game of death more than Monopoly, but
They're both bad.
It's like, how can I make this right? So you apologize to your kids. You are specific about the offense, but what you do is you model for them how to make it right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, is showing them that you're not perfect and that you don't require them to be perfect. But that emotional safety thing is everything. Do they feel safe? Do they overall feel safe? And if you can answer that question and go, yes, my kids feel safe. Right now, they're going to be upset that I can't spend time with them. But do they feel safe overall? Yes. If I take time to myself right now, will I get time with them later? Yes. Then punt it. But I will say this. Do everything you can, and I'm guilty of this as anybody. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you don't have time, don't make a promise that you're not going to be able to keep with your kids, but do everything you can to keep the promise of connecting with them. So I would say my first component of this is, if they feel safe already, you're ahead of the game.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what, back to the sweet mom who was just providing for her kids. I think that's what I mean when we're talking about the deception. The deception isn't that, yeah, there's certain things maybe you don't have time to do. You don't even have the capacity to do. But you can smile when they walk in the room. You can lay on the couch and just hold them if they'll still let you. You can just come up behind them and just rub their shoulders or just put your arms around them. These are the things that make them feel seen without taxing us. And those are things, but in the moment, you're in fight or flight. You don't think of those things. You don't realize you have the resources to do that. You can sit on the corner of their bed for just a minute and hold their hand and say, buddy, I'm sorry I didn't get to spend that time with you today. Mommy is just or daddy's in a really busy season right now. And I the honesty, that's what this repair thing is as much as is mature, they can, in their maturation, understand and absorb. We're not putting the weight of our lives on them.
Right.
But for them to understand with some empathy that there are things that happen beyond mom and dad's control where we genuinely want to be with you. I want to spend more time with you. And I'm sorry that didn't get to happen today. Or I totally messed up. I wish I'd chosen that. Will you forgive me? And that they see our humanity. They feel connected to us because we're sharing some of our life with them and we're inviting them into a conversation. And sometimes I have been there where even a conversation feels like too much. It's like, I don't want to go into this right now. So that's where a hug, a pat on the shoulder, a hold their hand, just grab their hand, acknowledge their presence. That speaks words of assurance to their heart that even though this season might be a little rough, you are still there. You love them. You're present. And that they're safe. They still get to be themselves around you. And I think those are the things that are lighter, maybe, I don't know how else you call that. They're not more heavy burdens for us to bear, but they're enough in times when we don't have more to offer.
And I would say too, when you have a child in particular who is demanding more, and you know that they're demanding more, maybe by not even verbalizing that they need more. In fact, those are the ones that I think when we have our kids saying, will you play with me? Will you do this with me? Will you do that with me? The fact that they're asking is a good thing.
Yeah.
The fact that they're asking means they're connected. They feel connected. They want more. They're desiring more of what they already have.
Mm-hmm.
It's when a child stops asking for connection and starts acting out that we want to pay attention to, or withdraws. And so in that case, when you have a child who you're worried about, something feels off and you know it, mother's instinct, father's instinct, parent instinct, whatever you want to call it, implement or consider inviting that child into 20 minutes of command-free time with you. So in other words, what command-free time is you're not dictating the play. You're just asking them, what do you want to do? And you enter into their world and you do it. So it's essentially, you can call it a one-on-one date, depending on the age of the child. You can call it a play date, command-free time, whatever you want to call it. Dr. Stanley Greenspan talks about this, especially from the early age, so infancy on up, that it's gold for a child's brain for them to be able to lead the one that they love, the adult in play and the parent in play. And so, for a teenager, that's going to look different than a child, but it might be playing Monopoly. It might be playing Thomas the Train. It might be whatever it is. You are entering into their world. You're doing what they want to do. It could be being out in the jungle gym. It could be playing soccer. It could be playing, a game with sticks, swords, fighting, whatever it is. Enter into their world and do what they want to do, and prioritize that child for 20 minutes a day for a season. Just do what you can to get 20, schedule it in your day, 20 minutes with that particular child, and just begin to see what happens in that journey with the child. We've seen it have tremendous impact.
Yeah. And I think what's cool about that is it takes the burden off you. You're not planning some grand date. You're not have to plan anything. Nothing's required of you except your presence, because they're the ones dictating the play. So you just show up. The hardest part is getting out of your productive fight or flight brain to actually be present and play. That wrestle is so real. So if you feel that where you're just I want to do anything else but this right now, I just encourage you, just stick it out. The number of people that will say that was the favorite part of their day, once they get over, I feel like it's a 10-minute hump, those first 10 minutes feel like nails on a chalkboard.
It's like praying.
Oh, that's actually a great analogy. Working out, maybe, I don't know, going for
first
a run.
10 minutes are terrible. You got to fight it out.
Running, maybe running more.
But here's what I would say: schedule it. I've started I would block times and schedule it, and it goes so much better because my mindset is I'm already going to enter into it.
Yeah.
So I've already had the mind. It's not like I'm in the middle of doing my to-do list or my work day, and then I have to and there's times where I am forced to stop and do that, and I'm like, okay, but that's a walking with the Spirit, walking with your child, trying to pay attention to what is the Spirit saying to me, what does my child need in that moment, and really dictating that component. There are times where I have to stop work or stop doing what I need to do to really be with the kids. But then there's times where it's nope, I'm going to schedule it because I know that I need to schedule it for that particular moment. And I think that's so. And watch their face. So we think about it in that way.
When you ask them if you can play with them for 20 minutes, watch their face. Some of them, they'll be so shocked. They'll be so excited. They'll be so surprised. As they get older, sometimes if they've become a little bit disenfranchised with you, or maybe you've lost trust there, you might feel a bit of the attitude and the pushback of okay. But inside, that little girl, that little boy inside is just delighted that you are delighted in them.
The last thing that I would say is this, and I think it's something, I genuinely believe this is something we need to work on and do a better job of as parents. And it might be that you need to do the same. There's a degree to which, especially if you're a homeschooling parent, I think this is even more so if you're a homeschooling parent, but where your kids are with you and there's a degree to which your kids become dependent on you for their fun in the day or for what they're going to do that day. And instead, giving your children the ability to go play. Boredom is beautiful for a child. That's where creativity pops in. After 20 minutes of boredom is when creativity kicks in, which is why I think it's important for our kids to be bored. But even if we create or have our kids go create something, to go build something, give them a task to complete together. If they're siblings, so whether it's cleaning up their room, whether it's building something, whether it's building a fort or doing something outside, or watering the garden, or pulling weeds, or those types of things. I love giving my kids projects where they have to work together as a team in order to get them accomplished. And there's a goal at the end, or there's a prize at the end. There's a reward at the end. Just like for us, there's a reward in everything that we do, whether it's, financial, whether it's, accolades, it's hey, thank you, or you actually see the benefit of what you did to serve somebody really, really well, and you see other people's lives change. There's a reward in doing what we do. Every single person has a reward, or we wouldn't be doing it. And so give your kids activities, give them hobbies, give them jobs, give them things to do that push them, that have them explore and not be dependent on you, but that rewards them on the other side, so that it does keep them busy. It does keep them, but they're also growing. They're becoming resourceful. You're actually serving your kids much better that way than by having them rely on you for everything that they need to do to be entertained throughout a day.
So good. And we need that. Thank you for saying that. Because we need to get back to that.
That's the biggest one I think we need to get back to in our lives is, I know our kids are safe. Like I genuinely believe that and experience and feel that. There are rhythms though that it's easy to get out of whack with over time. And it's important that we stick to those habits, that we identify what those are and go, okay, these are the things that we, and part of that is also, I think us figuring out how that plays into their day,
but also like this is wrapping back up to the demand on us. Like we're discerning it because it is too much, because they're like, they don't need us that much. They don't need us to be like, what do we do now? Or what do we,
right. 100%.
It's like, go, like you have agency and you have responsibility in your own life. Like and I don't get to take that from you. Or I mean, I can helicopter it and take it away from you, but it's only putting more burden on me. And so that's a great counterbalance to this conversation, because there are times when they are requiring too much of you and it's not appropriate. Like it's not necessary and it's actually not for their good.
And the thing, the biggest thing is this, you might have heard me talk about this. I wrote it in Famous at Home, but there was a research study done by a guy named by a guy out of Harvard University on a meta-analysis on the top 10 parenting strategies to get the outcomes we most desire in our kids. Of the top 3, I talk about, none of them have to do with a direct relationship with our kids. They have everything to do with who we're becoming as adults. The very first one, it was the 4th one on the list that had to do with a relationship with our kids, was raising independent children. It was getting them to explore the world around them. It goes back to the circle of security. The circle of security is, this whole idea of emotional safety. The core of that is not just that we're coddling our kids. It's that when they feel secure, they then go explore the world around them. And that exploration leads to self-confidence and self-competence later in life. And it's in that exploration, sure, they're going to hit times of stress and duress or real or perceived threat. And it's our ability as a parent to receive them when they're anxious, they're overwhelmed, they hit danger, they got lost, they got scared. When they come in, when they got picked on at school, whatever it was, it's our ability to receive them that leads to emotional safety. But if we receive them and we only hold them and we coddle them and we don't give them agency to go back out again and explore, then this is what's going to happen. They're going to become dependent on us rather than becoming resourceful, self-confident, self-competent. We've got to be able to push them and be able to give them ability to do that. And I think a sign that we're not doing that is that when they are with us and they're constantly still needing us. And I think that's an area that we can pay attention to.
So thank you for this therapy session and for listening in, because I needed it. No, that's so good. Like seriously, that sets me free, because it's discerning the difference between the two. Like how much is their need and I like genuine need, like they needed me, and how much of it is like, nope, that's
right.
You got this. Right. You got this, kiddo.
Because remember this, the top 3 parenting strategies on that research study to get the outcomes we most desire in our kids had everything to do with who we were becoming as adults. And one of those was how a parent's ability to manage his or her own stress. Our ability to manage stress is the second greatest parenting strategy to get the outcomes we desire in our kids. So what I'm telling you is, and how you treat your spouse, and then love and affection. But what I'm telling you is, and what I'm telling me is that those top 3 have to do with who I'm becoming. Yeah. They have to do with how I'm showing up. And we love only because he first loved us. Like our ability to truly love is to receive love. How well are we receiving love from our spouse? How well are we loving our spouse? And then how well are we managing stress? Those are about me. And I've got to pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. And if I'm paying attention to that, then I can interact with my child in a way that is going to set them free and not be dependent on me all the time. It's interdependence we want to build, not dependence.
Boom. That'll preach.
Y'all, if this was enjoyable for you, please leave us a podcast review. Give us more topics to talk about. We love hearing from you. So you can go to famousathome.com/podcast, put in any topics you want to hear from us that we're navigating or that you would like us to speak into. And remember, check out the coaching groups if you're interested. And until next week, keep in mind that the greatest red carpet you will walk is through your front door.
Keep being famous at home. We love you.